We're only about an hour into the news that Brian Flores has accepted the Minnesota Vikings defense coordinator job, but we're excited. It's an absolute home run hire for the Vikings. If they didn't get a Vero, would have wanted Flores. And again, I don't care if Flores moves on to a head coaching job. That means he did a fantastic job with the Vikings defense in 2023. And I mean, the prospect of a complete teardown and rebuild has to excite Brian Flores. Also, he does have a scouting background, so he could have some very good input with Kwesi in terms of who the Vikings are going to bring in free agency and the draft. And I'm excited, man. I'm really fired up about what this defense is going to be because it can't get any worse. Famous last words for Vikings fans. But here's 5 things to expect from Brian Flores' new defense with the Vikings. Number 1, credibility. So Flores is seen as a young, bright defensive mind. He's a great leader. He did a fantastic job in 3 seasons with the Dolphins as their head coach. He had back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in 2 decades. So he was not the problem in Miami. It was just a complete mess. But that goes back to ownership and credibility. I mean, free agents will want to come to play with Brian Flores. Like they know that they're going to be part of a aggressive, hungry defense, and that certainly could play into free agency. That could play into a lot of things. Next up, number 2, discipline. So Flores, he does have a reputation of being a no-nonsense guy, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I understand that it was a culture change from Zimmer to Kevin O'Connell, and maybe it was a little bit too player-friendly, and all the players loved Donatel, but the defense sucked. So now let's bring in someone who's going to lay down the law, who's going to demand excellence and hold players and people to standards. So I think that's exactly what Flores is going to do. And I think this is the setup that Kevin O'Connell always wanted. He's the head coach of the team, yes, but essentially he's head coach of the offense. You got Brian Flores, head coach of the defense, and you're good to go, man. Next up, number 3 thing that Brian Flores is going to bring to the Vikings defense: very aggressive. So that's the thing that really pissed us off last year about the Dontel defense, is that, you're not getting pressure with 4. The defense is predicated on pressure with 4. You ain't getting home, especially on the interior. You're refusing the blitz. You're refusing to play press man. You're just sitting back and just like letting life happen. It wasn't good, man. And the Dolphins, they get after it blitzing wise. Dolphins were top 3 in blitzing under Flores in his final 2 seasons, 2020 and 2021. Also, they get creative in who they bring. So they have a lot of zone blitzes. They have a lot of corner blitzes. They have a lot of delay blitzes. So it's going to be really interesting up front, especially if the Vikings do hold on to Za'Darius and they do hold on to Danielle Hunter. Now, I do think that so Flores does have experience with a 3-4 and a 4-3. I think coming in, I think that he's going to play more of a tight 3-4. So it's going to be interesting. We'd love to hang on to Za'Darius. We'd love to hang on to Danielle Hunter, but we'll see what happens. Next up. Thing number 4 to expect from Brian Flores: man coverage. So around 70% of his defenses the final year in New England, as well as his 3 years of Miami, were man coverage versus it was the inverse with the Vikings and Donatel, about 70% zone. So you're going to play press man, and I do think that, hey, if young corners can stay healthy, talk about Andrew Booth Jr., talk about a Caleb Evans, talk about Cameron Tiny Dancer. Yes, big ifs on all 3, but they have the length, they have the athleticism, they have the press man ability to be good on the outside. And Flores, he likes leaving his corners on islands, and he has that confidence in him. That's why he's allowed to get really creative up front and create heat and pressure. But, I mean, the Vikings also could be looking to cornerback early in the draft. They could spend up on cornerback in free agency. They're going to be building from the back to the front. I'm sort of okay with that at this point. Lastly, thing number 5 that the Vikings defense is going to get from Brian Flores: creativity. So mixing up the fronts up front, and also differing game plans. Sometimes they'll sit back, sometimes they'll bring it, sometimes they'll mix things up. It won't be the same static game plan week in, week out. And you saw exactly how Brian Daboll and Kafka completely teed off on the Vikings defense in the wild card round, because it was the exact same defense that they saw a couple weeks earlier on Christmas Eve. But it's great news for chess pieces like Harrison Smith, who I think could have a career renaissance, him playing the Javon Holland type role, and also Brian Asamoah moving around in coverage, also blitzing, and it's going to be fantastic, man. It's going to be fantastic. I think it's a fantastic hire. I think Flores is a defensive genius. I think that he's going to bring a lot of very creative aggression and just really get after it on defense. So yes, even though the Vikings defense could look a lot different by the time Flores is coaching in an actual game, don't care. Get younger, get faster, get players that will listen to Flores, and then just go from there, man. Pretty pumped up. But your thoughts are thoughts. 5 things to expect from the new defense under Brian Flores. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.